Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noiser, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and I have titled this episode Distortion of the Orientation because we are going to be looking at just that, the idea or the reality that we're living in, to allude to the fact that our orientation has been altered, our reality has been distorted, how we perceive the world has been drastically manipulated. And what this all means, whenever you look at it as an all-encompassing picture, it shows you how they are indeed experimenting on our experience. And this is something that we talk about frequently on this show. But in this episode, we're going to be going over things such as quantum computing, the multiverse theory, the Mandela effect, the Schumann resonance, time travel, time crystals, Star Wars, Space Wars, and how the Pentagon has authorized these types of things, and so much more, so much more. This is definitely going to be one of the episodes that you're going to want to sit back and look at. It's going to be one of our more abstract ones. We don't have a whole lot of videos planned for you guys, but what I would like to try to get across is indeed how they are trying to distort our orientation, our time-spatial orientation, and this is something that we'll get into as well. But before I do, quick updates, little few announcements for you guys, because it's always good to stay abreast with information. Make sure you're paying attention to Paradox Radio. We're still trying to decide whether or not we want to have it be a Monday and Friday show, or if we would just want it to be a weekend show, or if we're trying to make it a 24-hour station. And your feedback definitely helps us understand what the need is, what people would prefer, because we have a lot of different people from around the world that are paying attention, and sometimes our time, the time that we think is early, may not necessarily be early or appropriate for other countries. I mean, we have people from Canada listening, Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, Australia, Malaysia, the United Arab Emirates, and obviously, of course, America. And I am so humbled that you guys allow me to be in your car, in your house, in your ear, with you to explain these types of things. So I definitely like to cater to you guys where there's that need. So make sure you're paying attention to Paradox Radio, because this is where we're also putting our mini casts as well as other episodes and other things that we are doing. Basically, if you become a part of our Patreon exclusive membership, you can get access to our archive seasons, music, these episodes as well, exclusive editions of everything else that we're doing, and even early access to the episodes. There's so much more. And if you don't want to do that, because I still love you guys, go to our website, factionsoffreedom.gemdo.com, and once you're there, you can go to the bottom of our very homepage, and you can get the most recent submission of the work that we're doing. Because I love you guys, and I think we should all stay connected. And really, here's the actual announcement, the real announcement, the important announcement. I'm constantly telling people how to send me emails after they listen to episodes, after they watch videos and things like this. But now, you guys can send us a voicemail. You can leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the show, we'll play it in videos, we'll play it with discussions, and all kinds of other things. And if you guys want that number right now, instead of waiting until the end of the show, it's 843-900-6296. And you guys can leave us a voicemail, we'll play it, and we'll talk about it, and it'll be great. It's a great way to communicate. But that's the only really update that I have for you guys. So with that being said, let us jump straight into the show. I have a really great show planned for you guys. Really, really crazy. What's weird is trying to put this episode together. So many different things happen. This is actually probably the 4th or 5th time that I've actually tried to record this episode, and it's a little frustrating, but at the same time, it allows for clarification of the information. That way, you guys are able to get the more refined versions of what I'm doing, if that makes sense. So as I said before, we're going to be discussing things such as quantum computing, the multiverse theory, the Mandela effect, the Schumann resonance, and all of these types of things that basically allude to the fact, or if anything, confirm that something is happening to how we perceive the world, how things are changing. One of the videos I'm trying to put together effectively is the magnetosphere in me, and how this affects us whenever we look at things like the magnetosphere, the electromagnetic field energy, and how that affects the human heart. And these are other things that we'll be getting into in the show later on as it progresses. But what's weird is how a lot of these different articles decided, not necessarily decided, but how a lot of these articles kind of came together or popped up very recently. I think that's what's got me so shocked. And if anything, you know, this is something that we discuss on the show a lot. You know, the nature of reality, questioning how we perceive things, questioning our orientation, questioning how we operate in this very strange world that we're living in. You see. And so basically what I'm trying to say is back in March, there was an article that popped up where they said that 68% of the universe may not exist. So while we have simulations of our universe being conducted, we also have virtual reality being created, and this is something that we've talked about as well. The realization of them trying to create a sub-reality that we're able to interact, a reality within a reality, a inter-world, so to speak, a world between worlds. And this is why we also have Elon Musk saying that we need to integrate with computers, and there's all kinds of different things that come with just this discussion, with just being able to have these types of things come out publicly. But let me get into this article. It says, according to the lambda cold dark matter lambda CDM model, which is the current accepted standard for how the universe began and evolved, the ordinary matter we encounter every day only makes up around 5% of the universe's density. Now, with that, because this is something that we're going to keep referring back to throughout the entirety of the show, this 5% density, this 5% of, as they can say, standard matter, ordinary matter that we encounter every day, that we can perceive within our standard spectrum of light, you see. And this is, whenever I say spectrum of light, we're aware that atoms, molecules, and things on this plane of existence don't necessarily have weight. So whenever we're talking about 5% of viewable density, viewable observable matter, this is basically what we have taking place in front of us, all of the items that we've created. And this is another thing that we'll talk about as well, how this everything we see here in front of us created has been originated here. You cannot create or destroy energy. This is something that is constantly available to us. So whenever people make these types of, I guess, constructs, inventions, items, these things, this is again part of that 5% density that we are able to see, this observable matter. But let me get back into this article. It says that with dark matter comprising 27%, and the remaining 68% being made up of dark energy. So there's a distinction right there that they're trying to tell you. Dark matter is something that is recognizable, but that 68% of the universe is something that they cannot comprehend. You see, it's so far a theoretical force driving the explanation or the expansion of the universe. But a new study has questioned whether dark energy exists at all, citing computer simulations that found by accounting for the changing structures of the cosmos, the gap in the theory which dark energy was purported to fill, vanishes. Published in 1915, Einstein's general theory of relativity forms the basis for the accepted origin story of the universe, which says that the Big Bang kicked off the expansion of the universe about 13.8 billion years ago. Now, I'm no physicist. I'm not a nuclear physicist. I'm not a scientist or anything of the like. But I am someone who is avidly curious about all these types of things that we're dealing with. As a child, I've always thought that, well, if we were created by a Big Bang, well, what's at the back end of a black hole? If a Big Bang is just exploding, just exploding everything, and we don't know where that came from, well, what's on the back end of a black hole? We don't know where that's going to. Could we just be the output of another universe? You see, I don't know, but that's not the kind of path that we're going down. Just something to meditate on. The problem is the equations at work are incredibly complicated, so physicists tend to simplify parts of them so they're a little bit more practical to work with. When models are then built up from these simplified versions, small holes can snowball into huge discrepancies. Einstein's equations of general relativity that describe the expansion of the universe are so complex mathematically that for 100 years, no solutions accounting for the effect of cosmic structures have been found, said Dr. Laszlo Dubos, the co-author of the new paper. He goes on to say that we know from very precise supernova observations that the universe is accelerating, but at the same time, we rely on coarse approximations to Einstein's equations, which may introduce serious side effects, such as the need for dark energy in the models designed to fit the observational data. Dark energy has never been directly observed and can only be studied through its effects on other objects. Its properties and existence are still purely theoretical, making it a placeholder plug for holes in current models. So basically what they're saying, whenever they don't understand parts of certain parts of the scientific model in which we're dealing in, throw it into the dark energy category. Throw it into that part that we don't understand. It may not exist, but that's how we perceive science today. That's how we perceive reality. You know, if you can't explain it, then it's not real. And this is another thing that we'll be getting into later on, is how there's a whole separate layer, a separate second layer to your energy, and how excuse me, not your energy, but to your DNA that is just now being discovered. You see, there's a whole separate language going on inside of you, a whole entire different conversation explaining the human experience that we don't have the science to properly study. And that's simple to say. And so this is why we have to develop science. This is why we have to develop techniques and develop other things to look at to explain these types of things that we don't know, but other ancient civilizations have come to know. And this is why spirit science is very important. But basically what I'm trying to say by looking at these types of things is that we are living in a 5%, as they put it, density of observable matter, everyday matter that we see taking place in front of us, right? This is all that we're able to see. But if there is 68% that is unrecognizable, that we don't understand, that we can't comprehend, that we don't know exists, what could that mean for us? And this is a thing that we'll be trying to get into in this actual episode, is the dimensionality of the world, how people are able to do certain things, grow in certain ways, be advantageous to the collective, to the world, in realms that they've never thought possible. I think people don't really necessarily take into consideration the realms in which we do operate, and this is a thing that I'll try to explain throughout the episode, is just that, the concept of the multidimensional existence that we are living in. This is, if anything, why we'll be talking about quantum computing, the multiverse theory, and all these other things. This is really, as I said before, one of our more abstract episodes where we're trying to explain something that is unexplainable, trying to see how our orientation has been changed and how they're trying to circumvent our renaissance, how they're trying to put a filter or a face on our ascension, on our awakening. And this is why we're having experiments at Burning Man that test the science of collective consciousness, because there is something behind that. There is something behind the power of the human being, the power of the human experience, the power of what we were able to do. This is what we talked about in projects, powers, and psychics, with things such as Project Stargate, Project Sunstreak, Project Center Lane, and all of these types of things, because this is the world that our bodies inhabit. And you see, this is another thing that we'll be trying to explain throughout the episode as well. This artificial energy, the source energy, knowing your power and understanding what all this is. You see, we're developing, as I said before, new sciences that help explain different realms of perception, different realms of interaction. So whenever we just try to chop up 68% of our universe being a dark energy that we don't understand, well, that's intellectually dishonest. You see, that's just chopping it up, that's throwing it away, and not categorizing it, while we're also finding out that there's weird life forms trapped in underground crystals, that there's unknown life forms found hibernating in ancient crystals in Mexico. And this is something else that we'll talk about as well: time crystals, time travel, how we can create matter that exists here but acts on an entirely different, so to speak, wavelength, a time frame. And this is, you know what, I want to get into a quick article, and then I want to play for you guys a quick video. You know what, Let's see if we can play that video for you guys now, and then we'll jump right into it. But I recently saw on Third Eye Opener's page, and if you guys haven't, definitely go check out his page. I saw on his page where I feel like he summed up a great deal very concisely, and if anything, this is something I wanted to expand on in this episode. And if anything, we're trying to reach out to him and have him come on the show and talk about, you know, his products, what he's up to, his campaign, and everything else. But here is Third Eye Opener discussing what I would consider CERN, the Mandela effect, and how indeed our orientation is being distorted.
Yo, let's talk real quick about chemtrails, right? Let me just tell you what I know. It seems like somehow CERN opened up a portal. CERN is a large hadron collider in Geneva, Switzerland. CERN opened up a portal, and somehow our A timeline got transferred to something that's known as the invasion timeline. And in this timeline, this reality matrix that we're experiencing, there's a group of artificial intelligence aliens that are mining Earth out of existence. They're destroying the planet by mining it, and they're using these chemtrails as a method of depopulating the planet. Vaccines, antidepressants, cancer-causing agents, heavy metals, aluminum, barium, strontium, shit like that. So these trails are part of the giant problem, and combined with fluoride in the water, GMOs, and vaccines can make us fucking brain dead.
And we are back. I hope you guys like that break. But I definitely agree with everything Third Eye Opener said. We are dealing with a artificially intelligent alien source that is trying to mine the planet, using things like radiation from Fukushima, fracking, literally pulling up the oil from the ground and polluting all of our water, using the chemtrails, the stratospheric aerosol injections to depopulate us, using GMOs, the genetically modified organisms, to corrupt our biochemistry. And this is something that we talk about on the show all the time, how that affects how we transmit in this universe, how we're able to attach ourselves to this abundant energy source that we've basically come from. And this is another thing we talk about on the show all the time, you know, understanding that our bodies are merely vessels, that we are created from carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, potassium, and sodium. These are elements of the earth, and this is why we were talked about being built from clay, being built for this planet, being built here for this earth, for this planet, for this realm, you see. So whenever we have synthetic biology, 3D bioprinting, all of this synthetic, fake, artificial human stuff, you gotta wonder, what does that mean? You're creating a mimic of something that's real, therefore it cannot be real ever. But whenever we're having all these things take place, realizing that the human experience is being altered and drastically changed, you know, the fact that they're over medicating children at the age of like 4, 5, or 6, you know, they're immediately giving them drugs that dull down their brain. What does that mean? You see, so yes, I agree entirely with what Third Eye Opener was saying. And as I said before, we'll try to get him on the show to talk about these types of things because this is vastly important. But as I said before, I wanted to come back and talk about how there are different methods, different things taking place, how we operate in different spaces with things such as the Mandela effect, the multiverse theory. But what I'm basically trying to say is, as this paradigm shift is occurring, as things are changing in this form of transition, there are different ways to combat all of what we are seeing. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that Nepal's military is set to use Transcendental Meditation to relieve global collective stress and to try to stop war. Think about that. So how does this tie into everything that we're talking about? Well, this is what we discussed prior to the break. The idea that we're living in a world where, with things like Project Sunstreak, Project Sinnerlane, and all these other things, Project Stargate, psychoenergetics, realizing the power of the human mind, the dunamis of the soul, realizing that there's more to us. Let me get into this article. What I'm trying to say is that we have power and operate in different realms that we do not have the sciences to effectively see. Thus, we must do these types of things to develop the sciences to feel and understand what it is that we are operating in. You see, let me get into this article. I put it up March 31st. It's from Collective Evolution, and it goes like this. Nepal's army schools are finishing their first stage implementation of Invincible Defense Technology, IDT. The ultimate goal of IDT is to prevent enemies from arising by reducing the collective societal stress that culminates in war, terrorism, and crime. IDT involves the use of Transcendental Meditation, TM, the technique and its advanced practices, ideally by the military, to reduce the collective societal stress. Extensive peer-reviewed research has been documented, which documents the efficiency of this approach. Militaries and police worldwide have successfully field tested and are now using this approach. Okay, and this is what I was basically trying to say before, with them doing things like Project Stargate, Project Sunstreak, Project Sinnerlane, Project Grill Flame, all these types of things where they're looking at psychic abilities, psychoenergetics, realizing that when we meditate, we give off certain energies, we give off certain thoughts. We're able to absorb the energy of other people, of other entities, of other energies, you see. And this is something that we'll get into as well, and how all of our energy, whenever we take the time to look at it, we have to figure out where we're trying to pull from, because there's either an abundance or there is a scarcity. Right now there is a scarcity of good energy. Why do we have the military working on Transcendental Meditation? Where is a real love army? Or are they trying to create one? And so whenever you have the military creating their own form of peace, of bliss, of putting these energetic thought patterns out there, you see this psychoenergetic energy. This is because it's guided. This is not natural, and there's a lot of different things that come with it coming naturally versus it being implemented as such. But what I'm basically trying to illustrate is that this is a good thing, but we've got to understand that in the world that we're living in, as our orientation is being distorted, things are changing. Let me get back into this article. The Army School in Bhaktur, Nepal was the first military school to implement Transcendental Meditation. 300 of its teaching staff and 2,700 students, that's 2,700 students, there have greatly benefited from practicing Transcendental Meditation, according to the TM teacher, Mrs. Papi Regmi. Mrs. Regmi says that TM, Transcendental Meditation, has been practiced by the students of the school in Bhaktur for the past 3 years. After the students mastered the simple, natural, and easy to learn TM procedure, we noticed many positive changes in them. They are less irritable, aggressive, and destructive in nature than before. Many students improved in their academic performance, and this non-religious, scientifically validated technique is helping the students in their overall development. Mr. Samhim, the former principal of the Army School, also noticed improvements, saying that daily transcendental meditation practiced in the school greatly reduced the abuse problems and antisocial behavior of students. It has been the best tool to maintain discipline and healthy environment in the premises of the Army School. So basically what they're trying to say is that it works. It helped people. They weren't tuned into this artificial energy that's telling you to kill, steal, and destroy. They're not tuned into this energy that's telling you to, go out and go hurt people. You see, they're tuning into whatever this reservoir of inner energy is that we have somehow forgotten about, that we have somehow just ignored, and it's there. You see, so whenever we have people saying that there is 68% of dark energy that they can't comprehend for because it's not density, it's not real, they can't scientifically observe it, therefore 68% of our universe may not exist. Well, what does this mean? We have people that are literally meditating around the world and still able to cause effect. Create effect. Cause change. You see. So whenever we say things like this, we don't really understand the implications of that. We like I said before, we live in a very narrow spectrum of light that we can observe. As they said before, this 5% of density of observable matter versus this 68% that is entirely foreign to us, that we are unaware of. You see, and this is one of the reasons why I think we need to talk about, as I said before, our multidimensional nature, understanding that we can do more, we can affect change. This is something I'll get into later on, and how the human heart can change and affect the electromagnetic field. You know what? Let's see, if anything, we'll get into this, and then we'll jump into the quantum computers, where we can talk about how they're trying to combat this multidimensional reality in which we are existing in and simultaneously operating in, and how they have to have a newer form of basically a newer form of calculations, a newer form of computations to understand what's happening to us. You see, to ask the question of, well, if people are waking up, what does that mean? What does the awakening truly mean? What is the ascension? What is the collective consciousness? What is the aura? What are all of these things that are evidence of the paradigm shift? We cannot have a million people who and this is why I hate the term, are woke, because, you just have people who are aware to issues versus people who have, spent millions of hours researching. And I'm not going down this path. The point I'm trying to make is that we have people trying to redirect this awakening energy, because there's consciousness everywhere. There's people who are able to tap into different fields of energy. There's different levels and different stages of awakening taking place. And so whenever we have all of this energy permeating around us, you can either have people who are putting out these good vibes, these people in Nepal who are conducting this type of transcendental meditation, or you can literally have these witches who are trying to bind Trump, or you can also have these people who are involved in this pedogate spirit cooking nonsense. And all of these things are evidence, as I keep trying to say, of the human heart. So of the human heart, of the soul, of what we put out into the world, of our energy and what we draw from. But let me get into this article. It's from Before It's News. I put this up February 27th, and it is called How the Human Heart Can and Does Affect the Earth's Electromagnetic Field. And this is true. This is true. This is, if anything, one of the core concepts I'll try to get across in the video, the magnetosphere and me. But the article goes on to say that science has recently shed light on the fact that what we use to perceive as the human aura is actually real. All of our bodies emit an electromagnetic field, and this fact plays a very important role far beyond what is commonly known when it comes to understanding our biology and the interconnectedness we all share with life. This person recently attended a Greg Braden workshop. I'm not sure who Greg Braden is, but he was at a Creating Life Fellowship in Phoenix, Arizona. If any of you are familiar with who Greg is, I'm not. He's been a pioneer of truth for many years. Maybe I should look into him. Who's been bridging the gap between science and spirituality. He's had an impressive career as a computer geologist, is a prominent author of many bestsellers, and has even spoken in front of the United Nations. So, if any of you follow me often, you know I'm a huge fan of Greg. Okay, well, apparently this author is really a fan of Greg. I'll go check him out, guys. Unintentional plug. But what I took away from most of his workshop was the incredible amount of hard evidence he was able to provide around this relatively new area of study, at least as far as mainstream science is concerned. During his presentation, Greg went over the current studies being done at the HAARP Institute, and this is something that we talk about as well. The HAARP Institute, basically, they do studies on the human aura. Right there. How does that work? I have no control over those videos, but that video just popped up. That is the aura and the heart energy. And basically what they're saying is the heart's energetic aura is always pulsating and affecting its surroundings. The intuitive energetic heart is what people often call their inner voice. It has also been discovered and studied that everyone has it. Through science, the HAARP Institute has shown that when you shift into a coherent state, your heart and brain work in the same rhythm. Stress is reduced, cognitive functions increase, and intuitive discernment increases. This can help us solve our personal issues, social, and global challenges. The heart's intuitive intelligence is designed to help us make more intelligent decisions and improve communication. The problem is, currently, ego choices override intuitive suggestion, as most of the people can tell. Yeah, so when they say connect to your heart, researchers show when people hold genuine emotions and compassion, their heart coherence increases. Wow. Well, thank you. Those are really informative videos. But yeah, you know, this is what the HAARP Institute does. They're measuring the electromagnetic field of the heart, and also how it changes in the presence of loving, calm energy versus fear-inducing energy. You know, and this is what I talk about as well: the source energy versus the artificial energy. These people in Nepal, how they were conducting these types of things, these transcendental meditations, realizing that they're able to have effects in other realms. You see. But basically, what I'm trying to get at by looking at this reality, there are things changing. This is evidence of the multiverse theory, if you ask me, of the Schumann resonance, and how it's increasing, how we're having more of an effect, how the general collective unconsciousness is wearing, or is increasing, how people are able to genuinely know more. Is this evidence of the technology? Who knows? But what I'm trying to say when we're looking at this type of stuff is the quantum computing aspect of this, because yes, there is a great awakening taking place. Do not get me wrong, I think everyone can feel it. But what is happening due to this awakening is still the I don't want to say the villains of this story, but the adversaries. The Illuminati, the satanic Illuminati, these people, these Luciferians, these people who are trying to circumvent our Renaissance that I go on and on about, they are trying to figure out ways and how to handle this, because, as I say before, I feel like creativity is the answer to conformity. We need a Renaissance, not a revolution, you see. But with this mindset comes other solutions, other problems. We have to understand that while we might be thinking of these types of things as problems and simple solutions, the world is ending, or not the world is ending, the world is in turmoil. How do we fix it? Well, we start conducting our own little farms. We start taking care of the planet. We start doing subtle things to try to get us back to point, right? That might seem like a logical path, but when we're looking at these adversaries, the villains of this story, of the world that we're living in, they have something on their side too. They're trying to, if anything, figure out us. You see, as I said before, constantly trying to circumvent our Renaissance. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say in our multidimensional reality, in our multidimensional existence, they are trying to send quantum computers to solve us in other dimensions. You see, and this is, I'll say this and then we'll jump right into it. And it's great that we have the time crystals playing over here in the video portion of the show. And basically what this is, and we'll get into time crystals later on in the show. Pink Floyd's most iconic album is The Dark Side of the Moon, with the pyramid and the one stream of light coming through it and then dispersing into many spectrums. This is part of that 5% density that we're able to see in one dimension. Right? But what happens if you rotate that triangle? What if that triangle is really only one pyramid, one side of a pyramid? What happens to that light? Are you able to see those spectrums of light, or are they blurred? Are they the same? What I'm trying to say is there are different dimensions in which we are interacting, and they are trying to distort just that. So IBM's quantum computer is to open up a new realm of computational computer, of computational power. You see, what I'm trying to say is they'll send off formulas, equations, and this is why they have them running simulations. This is why the technocracy is not good. This is why they need all of the metadata. This is why they need all of this information that defines you in so many different ways, is so that they can send this information off into these different dimensions of theoretical physics, of quantum physics, to solve these types of problems. But let me get into this article. I put this up March 8th, and it is from the Event Chronicle, and it says that IBM has published a press release announcing that the company is set to build the first universal quantum computer for science and business. The new division called IBM Q has been set up to make such computers and sell them commercially. Russian scientist Maria Duvivatskaya, sorry if I butchered that, I'm sure I did, I'll just refer to her as Maria, at the Zurich Research Laboratory, spoke to Sputnik about this, talking about how soon quantum computers will be available commercially, and what they would like, Maria said, is the most precise answer I can provide you with is, within a few years, for the end user, the initial quantum computers will be accessed via the cloud. The first applications we see for a universal quantum computer are for drug and material discovery. Now, I'll get back into this, but she's saying the first access that we have to these IBM quantum computational computers is through the cloud. That's how we'll interface with them. Right? Not physically, but through the cloud. So you've got to have a computer that has the computational power to keep up with the quantum computer. Right? And what are the very first things that they're trying to do? Drug and material discovery. They're trying to figure out not only how to pacify us, but also how to find other materials. You see, the article goes on to say the financial services and supply chain. She further explained that the idea behind this is that if, for example, a salesperson needed to meet with 500 clients around the world as fast as possible and at the lowest cost, there could be trillions of different combinations to plan such a route. However, a quantum computer could do such a calculation very quickly regarding what kind of changes software developers will encounter with the release of these with the release of these quantum computers. Maria said that the algorithms for quantum computers need to be carefully designed to make use of the features of quantum mechanics in order to distribute speedups over classical algorithms. So basically what they're trying to say is whenever you use your Google Maps to take you to a certain location, there are hundreds of different routes, hundreds of different things to get you to point A to point B. However, what they're doing with this is they're finding the most optimal route using all of those different combinations, all of those different algorithms, all of those different formulas, and all these different things taking place to give you your answer. Now, I know that sounds simple, but as she said, what if this person needed to meet with 500 clients around the world in the shortest time and the cheapest possible? Now, that might seem logically right, but is it beneficial? You see, imagine them literally sending off a problem in a series of ones and zeros to dimension A, dimension B, dimension C, dimension D, and then literally getting bit by bit just the formula to provide this thorough layout. I know that sounds simple, but as they said before, just to figure out a way using quantum mechanics to distribute speedups over classical algorithms. Okay, the subtlety involved in quantum algorithm design makes it challenging to apply quantum computing to real-world problems in enterprises. True, because you know it won't make sense here. And the reason why I want to try to make this a thing to understand how they're using quantum computing is to explain why we see all of these strange things happening here, happening there, happening here, happening there. Because this is a long-term program that is now being taken over by something that is acting in a multidimensional way. You see. This is exactly why we are putting the quantum experience in the cloud for developers to use, the scientist said. She added that in order to enable a medium-sized quantum computer in a few years, it is important to begin shaping the software framework today, and that is why we are understanding that the quantum experience is vital. Talking about the functionality of the processor and how much a small computer will cost, Maria said, the magic number for a universal quantum computer is 50 qubits. At this level, we will surpass the functionality of the fastest supercomputers on the market today. At this time, we aren't disclosing costs. So basically what they're trying to do is they are trying to blow our computers out of the water. They do not want our computers to have the power that these new ones will have to run these algorithms, run these types of classical algorithms, to speed up these formulas, you see, to come up with these different combinations. That's why they're putting it in the cloud. Because they want to be able to use different formulas and different algorithms from these different minds, from these different computers, but only allowing a fraction of it to make sense, you see. And I know this sounds simple, or it might sound complex. I'm not entirely sure. What I'm trying to say is we are operating in multiple dimensions. These things that we are discussing are not simple. We're not understanding the fact that whenever we look at how diverse the experience of being a human is, we're not taking into consideration what that could mean. As I said before, literally shifting from looking at a triangle and asking, well, is that a pyramid? Simple geometry. Or you could look at sacred geometry, where we're having to question the orientation of our reality. But this is why they want to distort it. They want us to have a simple 5% density observable reality where we're not able to interact with everything else that's going around us. You see, we're going to take another break, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about how new research is confirming that there is a hidden layer of information, a hidden second layer of information in our DNA. And that's vital, because what we're basically talking about is we're talking about how when we don't understand that 68% of the dark energy of the universe that we can't interact in, that we're literally having to create quantum computers to understand time crystals, to try to trap that energy and use it to operate in multiple dimensions. We really should think about, well, if new research is confirming that there's another layer in our information, what does that mean? How does that affect us? You see. But we'll be right back right after this break. Yep, I like that. Yeah, but they know. Okay, let me start off this part of the show by saying these people know. They've known this, okay? And that's why whenever we look at the technology of where things are, of how wild things will go from here, what this basically means is that, you know, they're well aware of our multidimensional reality. This is why we have Elon Musk saying that I'll break you guys out of your matrix, don't you worry. You just need to link up to my new company, Neuralink. You know, you just need to talk to Bill Gates and trust Mark Zuckerberg and all this Facebook technology. Trust us, guys. We're, you know, technocrats. We're rich people. We got your back. We gave you everything you need. You know, we're benevolent dictators. You know, we got you. Now that's a problem, okay? Because these people are aware that, you know, any day somebody could come up and just cold clock them in the face. But what I'm getting back into the show. Sorry, I have a villainous hatred for Bill Gates doing all this stuff. I really do. You know. Anyway, getting back into the show. We left off talking about how new research is confirming that there is a second layer of DNA, a hidden second layer of information within our DNA. You see, what does that mean? Okay, we're talking about how 68% of the universe isn't observed. 68% of what's going on can be explained. But now we're also hearing how there is a second layer of information within our DNA. But we have reports from Los Alamos coming out how airport scanners alter your DNA, how vaccines alter your DNA, how I tell you all the time with the chemtrails and the GMOs and the fracking, how these things after a while they bioaccumulate in your body and they change how you they distort your orientation. They change how things happen here because your body is advanced technology. You know, your hair, you're able to receive the energy from messages from the universe. I don't mean to sound like a crazy person, you know, but your heart being the generator of your energy, your brain being the computer, you know, through which you explain the information. I know this sounds like crazy person talk, but what we're understanding is that there is so much more to what's going on, and these simple constructs that are created in this 5% density of the three-dimensional reality in which we're only able to perceive, it's simple is what I'm trying to say. They're trying to appeal to your baser instincts, to your baser origins of energy, and pull in from that. They don't want you to understand that there's thousands of years of success, of hardships, of failures. There's generations living in you, that you are a representation of life, of never being subdued. And they just want you to take a selfie. They don't want you to understand the power that you have coursing through your veins, the blood that's in your heart. You see, you have the blood of kings, you have the blood of peasants, you have the blood of millions of people living within you. Let me get into this article. I put this up March 7th. It's from Mysterious Universe. It says that research confirms a hidden second layer of information in the DNA. It says that the human genome is one of the last frontiers of modern medical research. Basically, what we're going to be talking about is transhumanism. Okay, when we talk with this, whenever we look at these types of things, we're talking about transhumanism, eugenics, them trying to genetically modify the reality. Yes, that artificial humans and how they could soon be grown in labs, because cloning is very real. If you do not believe in cloning at this day and age, you know, I really do feel bad for you. You need to, you really should go look into it. You really should. But getting into this article, it says recent developments in genetics have shown that the scientists are now capable of making some very fairly radical alterations to DNA, leading to all sorts of strange genetic developments. Now that the human genome editing trials have begun, the strangest developments are certainly still yet to come. DNA, the new plaything of biological tinkerers everywhere, despite these advances, modern science has only recently begun to unlock the secrets of our genetic building blocks, and many mysteries surrounding our DNA are left to be unsolved. However, a team of scientists, or a team of physicists, at the Leiden Institute of Physics claims they have solved one of the most enduring questions about the function and mechanisms behind genetic encoding of traits. A second layer of genetic information has been speculated but never could conclusively be identified. According to the physicist Helmut Scheissel and his team, there is a second hidden layer of information stored in the strands of DNA. While it has long been understood that the strings of 4 DNA nucleotides, G, C, A, and T, encode all our genetic information, scientists have been unable to conclusively determine how the same strings of nucleotides contain information for vastly different biological processes and physiological traits. Okay, until now, that is, the researchers from the Leiden claim to have designed an experiment that conclusively determined the mechanisms behind epigenetic expression. So I'm going to read that one more time, because what we're basically saying is that the nucleotides, they communicate in different ways. The information in which the G, the C, and the A nucleotides, the 4 strands, how they communicate, it's entirely different. There's something that they couldn't see there. So what they would like to do, and I'm sure, because this is what scientists do, they'll find a way for genes to express themselves differently, you see. But getting back into this, while it has been long understood that the strings of 4 DNA nucleotides, G, C, A, and T, encode all of our genetics, scientists have been able to conclusively determine how the same strings of nucleotides contain information for vastly different biological processes and physical traits. You see. And so, whenever we look at these types of things, whenever we're trying to understand that there is another realm in which we're still trying to understand that we interact, we have to understand that this also changes different biological processes, physical traits, and how genes are expressed, epigenetics, and things like this. But the article goes on to say in their open source publication in PLOS1, the researchers claim that this is due to the actual physical arrangement of nucleotides, which transmit genetic information through its mechanical structure. We have shown that the major features of the nucleosome positioning rules can be predicted by the sequence-dependent DNA geometry and elasticity. These findings suggest the intriguing possibility that nucleosome positions are the product of mechanical evolution of DNA molecules. So basically what they're trying to say is that when they see these, when there's intelligent design to our DNA structure, DNA, things expressed differently. There's an entirely different way that this information can be interpreted, that can be looked at, that can be explained. You see, so whenever they literally try to change us, changing how we operate here in this universe, cracking our magnetosphere, conducting experiments in the ionosphere using things like HAARP, the chemtrails, etc., etc. This affects us as well. This affects how we're able to come into contact with what I would consider the source energy, the holographic universe. This is another thing that I try to talk about as well. All these microchips, all these implants, all of this artificial energy that they are trying to propagate. This is just that. It keeps us trapped here. You see, this is why whenever we look at this type of information, we have to understand that we have to make a choice of either separating from this system that only seeks to further our enslavement, or liberate ourselves, understanding that we are capable of so much more. You see, you know what? I want to try to find for you guys that article about the experiments at Burning Man, about collective consciousness. You see, about what happens whenever we come together, about the power of teamwork. I hate to sound cheesy, but the power of teamwork, the power of us, the power of the team, of one individual versus the collective consciousness, or the collective conscience in this experiment. You see, and that was pretty fast. I found it, and this is Boom. Experiments at Burning Man test the science of the collective conscience, and this was put up February 20th by Waking Times staff writer Terrence Newton. You see, and basically, this was a test conducted by the Institute of Noetic Sciences. They talk about the Noosphere. This is important stuff, if you ask me, because while we have videos of cymatics playing, we also have the news tickers showing how there is weird life forms found in trapped underground giant crystals. You see. So we're talking about the collective consciousness, we're talking about cymatics, we're talking about waveform energy, crystals. All these types of things play a part in what's going on in our world. But whenever we only stay tuned into this 5% density that we can only see, that we can only touch and only feel, this is for senses that have been dulled through years of this type of indoctrination. This is why whenever people meditate, as we talked about at the start of the show with Transcendental Meditation, getting back to source, people understand who they are versus indulging this artificial energy. You see, and if anything, that's something we'll get into after. These, if you ask me, I feel like these underground reservoirs of crystal chambers, this underground crystal cave, this is able to collect and harness and hold on to energy that has been here, that has been residual for years. This is something that we're still able to draw upon, that people have taken the time to try to invest positive energy, love, and all these other things into. But we are living in a day and age where all we put out is negativity, destruction, and chaos. But let me get into this article, and this is something that we talked about on the show as well. But it says that to bridge the gap between material science and the science of consciousness and the spirit, a paradigm shift must occur, and eventually it will, thanks in large parts to the efforts of the pioneers who were testing new theories in how the mind shapes the physical world. On the cutting edge of exploration of the mind-matter connection are individuals like Rupert Sheldrake, who has elaborated on his theory of morphic resonance fields, and morphic fields. Some have elaborated on his theory. Sorry about that. Some as of the yet undetectable quality of either, which allows for instinctual and instructive information to be passed between generations of insects and animals, looking ever more for verifiable signs of a field consciousness, or as some refer to it, a noosphere. The Institute of Noetic Science conducted experiments in 2012 and 2013 at Burning Man, the festival in Nevada, to detect what effect a highly concentrated and highly focused collective conscious might have on physical matter. Okay, and this is what we talk about as well with cymatics, with psychoenergetic energy. What happens whenever we focus? What happens whenever we find a way to affect change in the reality that is unseen? Okay, the working hypothesis of that study was that, quote, mind and matter are complementary aspects of a more fundamental holistic reality. These two aspects of nature may appear to be quite different from one another when examined separately, but a broader perspective, they may have been seen as a part of intimate relationship by virtue of being connected to or part of the same substance. Based on this proposed relationship, when minds experience a period of unusually high collective coherence, then perhaps matter will show a period of high coherence. Furthermore, the underlying hypothesis in the study of this type, dubbed field consciousness experiments, is that the mind and matter are complementary aspects of a more fundamental holistic reality. As an analogy, the idea is that the subjective mind and objective matter may be like heads and tails on a coin. These two aspects of nature may appear to be quite different from one another when examined separately, but from a broader perspective, they may have been seen as an intimate relationship by virtue of being connected to or a part of the same substance. So as we said, basically looking at how the mind affects reality, what happens whenever we're able to affect change. This is why the people in Nepal are conducting these transcendental meditations, trying to understand what this is, what this reality is, trying to calm down the anger that people are feeling. You see, and I know that sounds strange, but these are experiments that have been going on for quite some time, as we talked about since the 70s with Project Stargate and Project Centerlane. You see, but what we have to understand is that now, because we are changing, now because things are are, so to speak, different in the world, or at least different in how we're perceiving the reality, this is going to cause different problems, different issues, different things that are being raised. You see, what I'm basically trying to get at is the fact that, and I don't know, this could be part of the alien agenda. This could be the breakaway civilization. This could be another form of energy or entities actually trying to contact us, because as we've talked about with the Thunder Energies company, with the Santilli telescopes, how they have documented the existence of ITEs, invisible terrestrial entities, of the first and second kind, and how they hover over military installations as well as public centers. But what we have to realize is that whenever we're doing these different types of experiments, whenever we're changing how we perceive the reality, but at the same time realizing how they're trying to distort our orientation, i.e. circumvent our renaissance, we have to understand that now we are coming into contact with entirely different forms of life, entirely different forms of reality, entirely different ways in which we're being engaged. You see, I know that sounds strange, but what I'm basically trying to say is that April 3rd, from the Daily Sheeple, I put up an article how that there are mysterious energy signals called fast radio bursts coming from outer space. You see, the reality that there is something out there. They go on to talk about in this article how there's a certain rhythm to when these beeps or these bursts are coming, and the duration of them. I ask the question of whether or not this is this artificial energy source, or if this is source energy, or where this is coming from. But if this is the case, if this is coming from outside of our normal space of understanding, well, what is keeping us here? Could there be an energy force here that is sending signals to our body that we are interpreting, that we can't even comprehend, that we are unaware of because we do not have the science to comprehend, you see? But let me get into this article. It says that in 2007, a West Virginia University astrophysicist named Duncan Lorimer detected a brief yet very strong burst of radio emission coming from an unidentified source in a space while combing through archival data from the Parkes Observatory telescope in Australia. Lorimer's discovery introduced to us a new class of objects dubbed fast radio bursts, or FRBs. The detection, also known as the Lorimer burst, was the first discovery of its kind. Since then, astronomers have stumbled upon 17 more FRBs, and their source has mystified scientists for years. Everyday Einstein explains that fast becomes because these blips are very short, less than 5 milliseconds in duration. So because only 5 milliseconds in duration, guys. 5 milliseconds in duration. Sorry about that, team. This is what happens whenever you try to have a calm environment and people still try to get a hold of you. This is what I talked about. Too many people, and trying to get this episode together. It had to be something. It had to be something. But let me finish this. Okay. So Chop. We're talking about fast radio bursts. We're talking about how there is energy and signals being sent out from different origins, different places. This not terrestrial. This could be evidence of an extraterrestrial civilization, or at least a ancient civilization that was able to conduct this type of stuff. You see. So let me get back into this. Sorry for that little bit of a hiccup, but as I said before, this has been one of those days where trying to get this information out to you guys has been a bit of a hassle. So the term fast for fast radio burst, Everyday Einstein explains it as because these blips are very short, less than 5 milliseconds in duration. So chop 1 second into 1,000 parts, and you're looking at less than 5 of your pieces. The radio portion of the moniker is due to the fact that the emission is detected by radio telescopes, surveying the sky at radio wavelengths. So what they're basically trying to say is that it's only able to be perceived in the radio frequency, in the radio wavelength. So again, we are talking about waves. We're talking about waveform energy. You see, electricity, so to speak. They are called bursts because the signals disappear as quickly as they appeared, without warning and so far without explanation. FRBs are some of the most elusive and explosive signals ever detected in space, and while they last for mere milliseconds, they generate as much as energy as 500 million suns. 500 million suns. Think about that. In 5 milliseconds, they produce the amount of energy of more than 5 million suns. And where do you think this energy goes? In the form of a wavelength. On our episode with Forbidden Knowledge, we talk about the physiostatic nature of the planet, of the pyramids, and even of human beings. Where do you think this energy is going? The energy of 500 million suns. If we need vitamin D, where do you think this energy is going? That's all I'm asking. You see. But this article goes on to say that they are about 1 billion times more luminous than anything we have ever seen in our Milky Way galaxy. Last year, researchers found that 16 FRBs are coming from the same source beyond our Milky Way. Wow. Think about that. I really do wonder what the pattern is, and if we'll develop any more sciences to actually understand these in a deeper sense. But the article goes on to say that last month, Harvard physicists proposed that the signals like these could be evidence of an advanced alien technology. The Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, SETI, has looked for many different signs of alien life, from radio broadcasts to laser flashes. Without success, however, newly published research suggests that mysterious phenomena called fast radio bursts could be evidence of this advanced technology. Specifically, these bursts might be leakage from planet-sized transmitters powering interstellar probes in distant galaxies. What I'm basically trying to say is when we look at this could be evidence of the alien agenda, or this could be of a different source looking at where this information is coming from outside of our Milky Way, outside of our perceivable 5% reality. This is part of that 68% dark energy that is interacting that we are entirely unaware of, you see. And so what I'm trying to say is that all of these things are all encompassing of the holographic universe of where we are at, realizing that there is more to what we can perceive, what's going on within us as well as outside of us, that we have to engage, that we have to understand. You see, and so whenever they try to do these microchips, these implants, that keeps us here. That keeps us in this physical, physical 5 senses, 3-dimensional realm that they try to trap us in, that they try to have us operate in, to where they appeal to our baser instincts, to our physical aspects. You see, and I know these things kind of sound strange and silly, but. And I know I kind of jumped to the end point with this, but basically what I'm trying to say is that there's more to the human experience, and whenever they're messing with the magnetosphere, that it messes with our heart energy, as the Heart Math Institute is able to see, that messes with us, that messes with how we're able to broadcast our own internal signals, or what energy we actually are connecting to. If this signal, or these signals, these FRBs, literally have the potential to broadcast the energy of 500 million suns in 5 milliseconds, well, where does that energy go to? What other energy are we not detecting that is interacting with us? You see, there's so much more that I wanted to get into in this, but there's like time crystals, and CERN, as well as the Mandela effect, and how, these are evidences of our timeline shifting, of things shifting, of us changing. But what I wanted to try to basically illustrate to you guys is that indeed there is a distinction between the two. Whenever we're looking at things such as and this is what I wanted to talk about as well, with the different timelines, our space-time locality, our space-time orientation, and how this is being shifted as well, and it's been documented with the Schumann resonance, and this is probably why people feel as though time is accelerating. There's so much more that is going on that we have got to understand, and we, the individuals, are able to affect change in realms that we don't even think. And if we don't understand our power, if we don't know our power, knowing the difference between the source energy and this artificial energy, how can we be effective? a thing I want you guys to look at is if anything, you know, I'll try to do like a subsequent part to this, or you know what? If anything, this is what we'll do. I'll put it in the exclusive part of this actual episode. We'll go over the Frankfurt schools of social engineering and quiet weapons for silent wars, and all these other things. But there's a lot that comes with just this topic alone, guys, and understanding how they are trying to distort what we consider normal, what we consider natural. There's a lot of metaphysical questions that come with that, and there's also a lot of internal questions that come with it as well. Are they distorting the orientation, or are we just getting back to where we should have been? Was this part of the plan all along, is to just make us blind, only to allow us to wake up, but in a more controllable way? You see? And these are all questions that I think we need to ask ourselves to become more effective in this world that we're moving into. You see. However, that's all I really have for you guys. As I said before, there's a lot of different things that I wanted to go over that I still have on these notes that, you know, you guys need to, or that I need to get out. And if anything, I'll put this onto the exclusive portion of this. So make sure you guys, if you're not, pay attention to our exclusive Patreon membership, where you can get access to the exclusive part of this episode, where I continue the rest of this. But that's all I really have for you guys in this portion. I wanted to give you enough to go on so we could understand that what we see taking place in front of us is part of a long-term agenda, and we are able to, if anything, affect change in this agenda personally, or we'll just be mindless sheep and go with the flow, go with where they would like us to go without understanding our power. You see. But that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or leave us a voicemail at 843-900-6296. I hope to hear from you guys soon. But stay vigilant. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.